Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the B segment of episode 19 of Codename Kids Next Door, Operation K.I.S.S. We begin this segment at the Sector V treehouse while a rainstorm is going on outside. In his room, Number 2 is eating a chili dog and he's working on his latest invention, which, according to Number 2, is supposed to turn hamsters into super hamsters. Number 2 has chosen a hamster named Joachim as his test subject, so he places Joachim on a target that's painted on the floor, and above Joachim is the part of the device that's supposed to launch the ray beam that will turn Joachim into a super hamster. Joachim, however, becomes nervous when the device begins to activate and runs off of the spot on the floor that has a target painted on it. So Number 2 runs to get Joachim, but Number 2 ends up on the painted target part of the floor just as the ray beam is launched from the device. So Number 2 is hit with the ray beam and he transforms into a teenager. So Number 2 goes to see his teammates to tell them that he's not feeling well right now. But the rest of the Sector V operatives don't realize that the teenager that they're seeing is actually Number 2, and the teen alert in the Sector V treehouse goes off as well. Not realizing that the teenager is Number 2, the rest of the Sector V operatives attack Number 2 and launch him out of the treehouse. So Number 2 is now lying on the ground just outside of the treehouse, and while the rain is still pouring. Suddenly, someone on a bike accidentally hits Number 2, and this someone happens to be Cree Lincoln, Number 5's older sister. And Cree is actually surprised when she sees the teenage Number 2, not realizing that he is Number 2. And she seems to immediately take a liking to the teenage Number 2, introducing herself and... that's right, the rain stops and the clouds part so we can see a sunny sky now. Number 2 is about to introduce Cree with his real name, Hoagie, but he quickly switches to Hank. So teenage Number 2 refers to himself as Hank. And Cree wonders what Hank was doing outside right now, and Hank says that he was on his way to get a hamburger, and he offers... he offers to go with Cree, he extends an invitation to Cree to also have a hamburger as well, and Cree agrees to this. So Number 2 and Cree head to the Romantic Burger. That's the name of the restaurant that they go to. Cree tells Hank that she had to get out of the house for a while because she was annoyed by her younger sister, and she goes on a rant about kids. Hank plays along with this rant, probably to not let Cree know that Hank is really Hoagie. And while he's while Hank was going along with Cree's rant, he notices that the effects of the device are starting to wear off. He's starting to turn back into his proper age as a kid. So Hank quickly tells Cree that he needs to go use the restroom and that he'll be back as soon as possible. So Cree enters the Romantic Burger and the rainstorm starts again. And as Hank is returning to the Sector V treehouse, he changes back into Hoagie. And when Number 2 enters his room, at first it sounds like he's angry at Joachim at first, but he quickly says that what Joachim did ended up leading to one of the greatest moments for Number 2 to happen, much to Joachim's confusion. Number 2 says he's got to change back into Hank soon, so he he requests Joaquin to activate the device. Joaquin does so, but nothing seems to be happening, and number 2 is wondering why it didn't work this time. And then he comes to the conclusion that he has to eat a chili dog when the ray beam hits him in order to turn him into a teenager for who knows what reasons. But yes, he eats more of the chili dog, and then Joaquin activates the ray beam, and yes, Hoagie turns back into Hank. The teen alert goes off once again. The rest of the Sector V operatives still don't realize that Hank is Hoagie, and they launch him out of the Sector V treehouse. And Hank does return to the romantic burger, and he and Cree, he returns to the romantic burger, and Cree is happy to see that Hank is back. And there is a moment during the event where Hank turns back into Hoagie, so Hoagie has to imitate his Hank voice in order to have Cree look away, saying like he sees a rock star. That's what he says to distract Cree, so he can get back to the treehouse and use the chili dog and ray beam combination to turn back into Hank. And he manages to return before Cree looks back where Hank is supposed to be sitting. So while this is happening, after that happens, Joaquin decides to actually use the device for himself. So Joaquin eats a chili dog and activates the device's ray beam. And at first, it does look like he's becoming bigger, but then it wears off quickly and seems to cause a power out of some kind in the treehouse. Just before Hank and Cree can share a kiss with one another, Cree receives a phone call, and she takes it privately. She tells Hank that she needs to take this call, so then she takes the call, and Father is the one on the other line. Father tells Cree that the defense grid of the Sector V treehouse is down, and that Cree knows what to do now that the defense grid is down. Cree apologizes to Hank after the call ends, saying that she needs to take care of an errand right now. But she does share a kiss with Hank, and Hank enjoys the kiss a lot. Like, he's in a dazed state, and he's just saying stuff along the lines of how the kiss was nice, in his words. And Cree thinks for a moment before she leaves, though, and she actually decides to invite Hank to join her on this errand of hers, and Hank agrees to do so. Cree activates the battle-ready armor that we saw her wear in Operation Support, and her bike even turns into a vehicle of some kind, a flying vehicle, kind of like a teen equivalent of the 2x4 technology that the kids next door use. So in this, in the battle-ready armor and the flying vehicle, Cree and Hank fly up into the air, and then Cree pilots the flying vehicle into the Sector V treehouse. And number 1, number 3, and number 4 are interrogating Joaquin about where number 2 is, and it's during this interrogation when Cree and Hank arrive in the treehouse. Cree tells Hank that she has to take care of the kids next door first, but then they can share some more moments together afterwards. So Cree is attacking the 3 present Sector V operatives, not counting Hank because he's in teenager form. And Cree doesn't realize it, but she keeps distracting Hank from taking action to help his teammates out. He's about to, but then he kind of gets distracted. But Cree doesn't realize that she's distracting Hank because she doesn't realize Hank's true identity. But after the 3 other Sector V operatives that are present are defeated, number 5 arrives to confront her older sister, and number 5 and Cree engage in a fight, or number 5 puts up more of a fight compared to her teammates, but Cree says that number 5's techniques won't be any good against Cree because Cree herself was the one who taught number 5 these techniques. eventually Cree is about to completely finish the fight with number 5, but then Hank is out of his dazed state, and he manages to use some 2x4 technology to trap Cree. And Cree is surprised that Hank was the one who trapped her, but Hank responds along the lines of he becomes sour when she attacks his friends, even though her kisses are sweet. And then Hank admits that he has a secret of his own, like Cree had her own secret. And the device's effects wears off, and Hank turns back into Hoagie. And at first, Cree thinks that someone turned Hank into Hoagie, but number 5 figures it out and clarifies that Hank was Hoagie all along. And Cree is not happy about the fact that she shared a kiss with Hoagie P. Gilligan Jr., but number 2 responds like, it couldn't have been that bad, right? Or yeah, that's along the lines of what he says. So the next scene shows 2 other Kids Next Door operatives in a 2x4 technology vehicle apprehending Cree. And they're planning to take Cree to the moon base. There's apparently a prison on the moon base, and that's where they're going to take Cree. So the prison vehicle leaves and with Cree on board. And number 2 is still sad to see Cree go, and he denies this though. Yeah, number 2 denies this when number 4 questions him about it. But on the prison vehicle, Cree calls Father to let him know that she's heading for the moon base, and Father congratulates Cree on a job well done, revealing that this was part of the plan, and that's how we end this segment. So we have ourselves another number 2 spotlight appearance, and yes, this is actually the second time someone from number 2's family temporarily became a teenager, because in Operation Tapioca, it was, in Operation Tapioca, number 2's grandma, Lydia, was the individual who, from number 2's family, who temporarily became a teenager. This time around, number 2 himself became a teenager, and it's also funny because this is the second time that a character voiced by Ben Diskin on the TV series has been temporarily made older. The first time this happened was with number 1 in the season 1 finale, Operation Grow Up. So besides that, this segment also continues the storyline that started in Operation Support, with Cree being the apprentice of Father, and Cree is carrying out a plan of Father's in order to take care of the kids next door. And whatever this plan is, it has to do with Cree heading to the moon base, and that will be made more clear later on. Actually, now that I think about it, the next segment that focuses on this storyline, that continues this storyline, that segment reveals the exact details of this plan that Cree is trying to carry out. And that next segment in this storyline also reveals some more details, or clarifies a few details that were hinted at. Like earlier, or that's right, in this segment, Cree comments that she was the one who taught number 5 her fighting techniques, and we'll go into greater detail about that in the segment that continues this storyline. We get an idea of why Cree, we have context for why Cree would teach number 5 these fighting techniques, and we learn a little bit more about Cree before she became a teenager, so that will be made clear later on. And otherwise, while it wasn't really touched up on in Operation Support, this segment made it more clear that Cree Lincoln is one of number 5's archenemies. So yes, number 5's older sister is one of her archenemies. Sticky Beard was the first one introduced in Operation Pirate, and Cree was introduced in Operation Support, And while the ending of that segment showed Cree to be affiliated with Father, this segment was the one that more clearly showed Cree being an archenemy for number 5. So, yes, while number 2 got to be the spotlight character for this segment, number 5 still had a fairly significant role due to the established... because this segment established Cree as one of number 5's archenemies. So... Oh, that's right, Joachim. Yes, Joachim is a hamster that actually has a name associated with this hamster. Joachim is a hamster that actually has a name, so not like one of the nameless hamsters from before. So Joachim actually does appear a few more times in later entries in the series, so this actually isn't the last we'll see of Joachim. So otherwise, that's about it for this particular segment. So a number 2 spotlight appearance, but we also had some, number 5 also had a fairly important role because this segment established the Lincoln sisters as archenemies for one another. And the storyline from Operation Support continues. And we do see that Cree heading to the moon base is part of whatever she's planning with Father. And like I said, we will go into greater detail about what that plan is in the next segment that focuses on the storyline. But for now, there we go. So as of this video, we've now discussed the B segment of episode 19 of Codename Kids Next Door on this channel. Take care, and until next time.